Hey everybody, welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is an improv actor, teacher, and his name's Benjamin Lloyd. Hi, Ben. He's from Bright Invention. You can find them at brightinvention.org, where he helps other people use the power of improv to have more fun, creativity, team building, great stuff there. At Playful Humans, we help people rediscover the power of play. You can find us and take our playfulness personality quiz at playfulhumans.com/quiz. And today we're going to talk about what it's like to play for a living. Here we go. We start with the joke of the day here on the podcast. The joke of the week is brought to you by flip-flops. Are you looking for footwear that only walk in one direction slowly? Try flip-flops today. Benjamin, you have a joke for us. What is the joke of the week?
Guy walks into a bar with a duck on his head. Bartender says, "What can I do for you?" The duck says, "Get this guy out from under my ass."
I like it. All good jokes, I feel like, are the opposite of what you expect, and that's a great pattern.
It's all about surprise. It's all about surprise, man. That's the secret of humor.
So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about Bright Inventions, what you're doing there, and how you play for a living.
Okay. Bright Invention uses improvisation to empower people and organizations to unlock their potential. And we do that through three different program areas. One is called the Bright Invention Ensemble, and that's me and 7 professional improv actors. And we do long form improvisation shows currently online. And we teach improv classes for adults and also for people with disabilities. Another program area is called Ability in Action, which is focused on people with disabilities and other vulnerable populations. And we use creative play and creative dramatics and structured improvisation to bring joy and creativity to those folks. And then we have a training and consulting service called Creative Corporate Training, which also uses structured improvisation, games, and play to create a safe space for companies and nonprofits to explore sticky issues in their culture or in their sales force, whatever it is.
I love that. All of it right up my alley. I would participate in all of it. Improv is actually one of the things that I haven't done in entertainment and world, but I would love to try it sometime. And I'm wondering though, first question comes to mind is, how do you get into that? So did you ever have a real job, or did you always just want to play for a living and fell in love with improv in high school or something? What happened there?
Never had a real job. No, I don't actually know what that means.
Exactly.
I actually feel like what I'm doing now is more real than anything else.
You bet.
No, I went to a fancy drama school. I have an MFA from the Yale School of Drama in acting. And I graduated in '88 and went to New York to become a famous actor. And, you know, I'm still kind of scratching my head, like, why didn't that work out? I can't quite figure that out. But I got cast in a play in Philadelphia. I had a 20-year career as a professional stage actor in Philadelphia, also teaching acting to college and graduate students in the Philadelphia area. And then my midlife crisis was forming this nonprofit. Some guys get into fast cars and drugs. I decided to do something even more dangerous, which is create a little nonprofit. So that's my little joke there. But I felt like I continue to feel like the performing arts are misunderstood and undervalued in our country. And so Bright Invention is to some extent my attempt to create a new paradigm for performers to monetize their creativity, stay engaged with each other, support each other, and to really use what I believe is the transformational power of play and improv and performance to solve problems.
I love that. I agree 100%. That's why we're talking today. Yeah. But I think it is interesting. Do you have any theory? You've been doing this longer than I have, about why it has dropped off. Why do people not value in school. I think for kids more, we do value the importance of play, and especially movement, that our kids are getting heavier, our adults are getting heavier. People are watching more hours of TV for recreation. Over 50% of their free time now is spent just watching, television. That's not play. That's not engaging with life or moving your body or anything. Do you think, is there a reason that it has shifted that way, or people have cut out recess in the fine arts from schools and adulthood?
Yeah, yeah. That's wow, that's a great question. I think that there's a few answers, and I think it's complicated. I actually think it's getting better, Mike. I think we are opening up as a culture to the necessity for playfulness in what we do. Broadly speaking, I believe that free market capitalism and toxic masculinity has a great deal to do with why, as we grow up, especially boys becoming young men, are taught play and playfulness and creativity is not for you. You need to make money. You need to get into earning profits and stuff like that. And interestingly, the field that you and I are in with play, it doesn't fit into metrics. It's not easy to measure, right? And so there are other things that you can do with your life where you can really measure the outcomes. I believe you can measure the outcomes with play-based work,
Right.
but it's slippery, and a lot of it's based on how people are feeling. Like, I feel so much different now about my workplace than I did before. And I think it's because of that awesome workshop that Mike came and delivered, So I think that's part of it. I also just think that we tend to feel that creativity is not essential. Like it's a luxury item. It's not the same as, going out and killing your dinner, or hunting and gathering. That's a bad metaphor. It's not as essential as some of the other things that we're led to believe are essential. And I think parents are rightly concerned that their kids are going to get into let's face it, a lifestyle for which financial security isn't, a strong suit. So all of those things, I think, have contributed to this bias against it.
I agree. And I think a lot of those have been proven to be false, especially the part about play not being essential. A lot of psychological research studies on animals, even like rats and stuff, they don't allow them to play, become like dumb rats and can't solve the mazes. They lose their will to live, basically. And they found the same in humans. So Dr. Stuart Brown did the research that serial killers and stuff were deprived of play, and usually in harsh environments where they weren't allowed to express or fail or whatever. And all the creativity things, that they basically lose all their creativity, and then they don't see other options. So their only option is to go do a school shooting or become a crazy serial killer, because they don't have a creativity way to express themselves or get out of that box. That's the only option they see. If they had a better option, they would take it, right? We all would as humans. So it's really interesting how critical it is. And the other thing I was thinking there when you were talking is a thought experiment I've been thinking about. I wonder what you would say here is, eventually computers and our technology is going to become so good that humans don't have to work for a living. And if we didn't have to work, what would our purpose be? How would we best spend our time? Right.
That's fascinating. Yeah. I think Andrew Yang is thinking about this.
Yeah. What would you think? Because if you think about Elon Musk, right, is trying to colonize Mars. In order to colonize Mars, you can't send people first, because the people die. They don't have any resources. So they're building machinery, computers, automated robots that could build a place to sustain food and life and air and everything human beings would need to survive without any people involved. If we could do it on Mars, we could do it here, which means we could colonize the United States to a point that human beings wouldn't need to be involved in order to have everything we need to survive. How would we spend our time? I guess you and I have chosen to spend it playing, but what does that mean to you? What does play mean? And why do you think it's essential or valuable?
So one of our slogans in our workshops is, if I can play with you, then I'm safe with you. And everything that we do, we begin with game playing. And we try to engineer it so that we make a lot of mistakes in the games. And then we laugh a great deal at the mistakes we make. And it sounds so simple, but the effect is so immediate and so profound, which is that people suddenly realize they're in a place where making mistakes is assumed, and it's actually a cause for celebration in some strange way, and joy. It's not, no one's going to be sort of criticized and shamed. And once you successfully create that safe space, it's extraordinary what human beings will start to do. The way they'll start to relate to each other, the things that they're willing to talk about. I like to say that our classes and our workshops are based on the following sequence: safe, then fun, then meaningful. And you can't get to meaningful without first safe and then fun. And actually, safe and fun kind of happen at the same time in our experience, Yeah. So that's the first thing about play, is that it creates a safe space for groups to encounter each other in. And some of the work that we do, we're talking about, sexism, racism in the workplace. We're talking about labor management relationships and stuff like that. And, people are freaked out. They know they need to talk about it, but they're freaked out. And so the first thing we do is we play games. That can be a hard sell to the CEO, but it's, you and I both know it's essential. The other thing that I want to say about it is that game playing engages a part of your brain, and there are studies about this too. It engages a part of your brain that is not generally engaged in sort of the frontal lobe, left brain driven logic data processes that a lot of us are invested in the workplace. So we know that play stimulates, if you're right-handed, it stimulates the right hemisphere of your brain, which controls the left side of your body, which tends to be where all of the intuition is, where a lot of the pattern making occurs. It's where your emotional intelligence lives. So, if that's really your goal as a facilitator or a person invested in helping people out, you have to get to that place where that part of your it's not even your intellect, that part of yourself is engaged and present. So that's two things off the top of my head,
Those are two huge things for me that I found, especially in 2020, is number one, a lot of people are getting burnout because they've lost some of their social connections, recreation, the Zoom connections are just not the same engaging thing. But like you said there, we're also finding that outside before 2020, and I think even after here, people are doing too much intellectual work and thinking, and they're not recharging their brain with the creative expression. And so I've always had this weird balance. My family was split. My father comes from a long line of like professional business people, and they're all guys and they're all driven, like you said. And my mom, her grandmother was a piano teacher, and they were all artistic. And on that side, I have fashion designers and artists and creative musicians. And so I felt like I got in the middle, and I've always had this tank that if I do too much creativity, I'm like, oh, I need to go like work on the computer or read a book or focus or something, because I'm just exhausted. And the other way is true too. If I've been behind the computer and I program websites and stuff, if I do that all day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go out and play. I need to go do karaoke or something and just get my energy out of the system, because there is this balance that every human has. But I think people tend in our society to focus on their strengths and overwork one muscle and forget that it's all about a balance, and you have to recharge too, right?
Yeah. Can I share a little exercise with you?
You bet.
This will be fun for your people who are watching this visually, but people who are just listening are going to miss out on it. So this is an exercise that I do which is meant to help you get the two hemispheres of your brain talking to each other. And it's called No Guns. And you're going to put both of your fingers up like this, pointing to each other with the gun gesture. You're going to remove one finger on one hand and the thumb on the other hand. The object is to make them go back and forth, but never make the gun gesture.
That's really hard. You've got a lot of practices there. But yeah, that is tough.
So it's an interesting question. Like, why is that hard? Well, it's hard because you're getting these two parts of your brain that tend to not synchronize and not relate to each other to actually try to relate to each other. That's a great one that we start off with groups of people, and they're all like, what the hell? What I feel like I've lost control of my hands. You know, it's just hilarious. So it's good.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love those things. And the other thing you said to me, I think, is going back to why play is important, and that it's just, to me, that people don't make the mistakes. It's the failure thing, right? That we all get trained, and it's all BS. I wanted to say the real word. It's my podcast. I suppose I can, but it's all complete crap, because we're taught in school that it's going to go on our permanent record that we can't make mistakes, that we got to get A's, and we start learning all these things. And even in our jobs, we're like, oh, we can't mess up or we're going to get fired. But when was the last time somebody got fired? I mean, it's really hard to fire somebody in 2021. You got to make a lot of mistakes consistently, or really big ones, right? Like, and to me, those are even more interesting. So a lot of times employers need people to make more mistakes, to take more chances, to be more creative than if just follow the rules. We can program computers to follow the rules and the instructions and automate everything. We don't need humans to do that. They make more mistakes, right? So we need humans to be creative and innovative. And I think that's really shifted in our culture. What do you think?
There's a great book. I'm forgetting the author's name now. It's called The Tyranny of Metrics. The guy's a Princeton, tenured Princeton professor. And the gist of it, you can probably tell from the title, is how our obsession with metrics and data-based outcomes for all types of human behavior has completely misrepresented what's actually going on in the fields that we're applying those metrics to. And he lifts up teaching as a primary example. And I felt this because I was a professional acting teacher for years and years and years. And the universities that I worked for always wanted to provide some sort of numerical score for what I did. And I just kept on feeling like, this is, I'll use your phrase too, it's crap, it's BS. Because I would witness in my classes, the natural talent, the kid with tons of natural talent, not work at all, and basically kind of sleepwalk through the class. And at the end of the class, he's probably the guy you're going to cast as the lead, but I'd give him a C, right? Because he didn't apply himself. Then there's the kid who has such enormous stage fright. And at the end of the class, he's able to get from the beginning of the scene to the end without calling for line once, because he worked his ass off and he transformed. That kid gets an A, but he's not the best actor in the class. You know what I mean? So that really spoke to me. And I think that investing in play, investing in opportunities for that kind of playful exploration of problem solving has huge bottom line benefits for companies. And I mean, look, managers and employers are in a tough spot. You have to be able to evaluate the people who are working for you. And I think to some extent metrics are, a piece of that. But when they become the be all and the end all, I think we really miss something.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you do. I agree with you. I think they're overrated. And if you really know your people, you might need metrics if you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but most humans work for small businesses where you can just look and see if the person is doing a good job or if the company is growing.
Right.
And my day job, I train salespeople and stuff. You can tell whether sales numbers are going up or down. We don't need to measure what somebody's doing every second of every day to try and optimize their performance. It doesn't help. Human beings need to rest and recover. They need to learn. They need to try some things. They need to be creative. And like you said, with acting, I've seen the same thing in sales, right? That somebody can be really creative and innovative and not do anything by the book and make a huge $1 million sale. And then if you were going to drop a play for somebody else to make the same thing, it would not look like that at all. But that's what works. And that's what the situation calls for, because that's what the buyer needed, or all kinds of things. That it's really tough. And we can improve sales performance, just like you can improve an acting performance. But sometimes it's when you go off script that it becomes magic. Right.
That's it. You know, what I'm thinking, Mike, is when you remove play, when you're not invested in that playful process, you're diminishing the chance for innovation.
Yeah.
You know, innovation, new thinking, new ideas, I believe comes out of that playful space. Part of what happens when you enter that playful space is you're starting to relate to your own experience, and it's way more open. You know, I think, you know, part of what happens to us in our lives is we get really so laser focused on the thing that isn't working, you know, but that laser focus isn't helping. It's not solving the problem. And you probably heard this, right? Sometimes you solve the problem by walking away from it, right? And not thinking about it. And then like 3 days from now, you're like, that's it. That's what I need to do, you know?
Well, that's exactly it. I think in life, there are some things that when you focus on, you make them worse. And that what you need to do is let go of control. And certainly business can be one of those things. The other thing is that sometimes you can't fix it by putting constraints on it. And what I mean by that is, going back to the scripts comment, when we teach salespeople, you can't teach salespeople a script because their buyer doesn't have the script. So it becomes an improv as soon as you deliver the first line of the script.
That's right.
And so why are we even trying to write down a script for salespeople? What we need to do is teach them to be better improv actors, right? And to play
100%. 100%. You use the phrase loss of control or losing control. I think that's key with play also. There's an aspect of play which involves a loss of control. And it's an essential part of improv too. It's why people find improv scary. Because if you and I are in an improv together, I make an offer to you, which is the thing I say to you or the suggestion I make, and I have no control about how you're going to respond.
Right.
My goal is to make you look like a genius, however you respond, you know, and not only that, but then accept what you say and build something out of it, you know. And I think part of what happens, you know, you keep mentioning like the era that we're living through right now, and I so agree. There's so much fear in our culture right now, and people respond to fear by trying to control their experience really tightly. And so play is a way to help people loosen up and be a little bit more comfortable with the reality that we don't have control. That's just the reality, right?
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen an hour from now. No idea, you know?
Right.
So
you
play,
try and be safe, but then you walk in the grocery store and somebody coughs right in your face, and you what are you going to do? You did everything you could do. But I wanted to ask you here, because you mentioned diversity and some other difficult challenges. Do you think that there's ever a time where it's inappropriate to play?
Yeah, so I think that you know, in a workshop context, in a you know, either for a community that you're serving or a business you're serving, I think that play is a tool, and it's part of a sequence of, at least for Bright Invention, it's a part of a sequence of experiences that are leading towards, if not solving a problem, then opening it up so that we're comfortable sort of seeing it and talking about it. I guess that's a long way of saying no. I don't think there is, you know.
Is there anything you can't joke about? Anything? No?
Well, there's stuff that you shouldn't joke about, but that's different, it's interesting. I'm thinking about, how do we use play in anti-racism training?
Hmm.
And I think that's unexplored territory right now. And for a white person like me, I need to do some of my own work around anti-racist
Hmm.
stuff. And I also need to invite people of color into the exploration with me. Um, so I just think that's just good, preparation. Um, but I think that play has an important role, in that work.
We've seen it. I mean, again, there's tons of examples of police officers playing basketball with inner city kids, or
There you go. Yeah.
environments where people are playing together. There seems to be a lot less issues when people start competing against each other or operating from
Mhm.
a scarcity mindset. That's where we get more issues.
Yeah. If I can play with you, I'm safe with you. And I think part of what happens, part of why that's true, is that we engage a childlike part of ourselves, which is so powerful and we love it and we miss it so much, where we would get together with a group of kids and, you know, 9 times out of 10, what they looked like had nothing to do with anything. It's just you were going to be the cops and we were going to be the robbers, or you were going to be offense and we were going to be defense, and let's play. Let's do this.
Right.
Um, that's huge, I think, especially in the era that we're living in now. Play gets you to common purpose. Play
Yeah.
is a way to get us to common purpose.
Lots of
Whereas
good things.
if
You agree on the rules, and the safety is also huge. You've already mentioned that, but I think when you
oh
agree to
yeah,
have
I
a
mean
positive experience together and there's clear ground rules about how we're going to play, that makes it a lot easier that you get to a positive outcome than
yeah, and
both of us
that's a
playing our own different game.
yeah, that's a mysterious piece of it too. Like, I've seen people initiate play and everybody tightens up, you know.
Mhm.
Hey gang, let's play some games. Everyone's like, oh no,
Yeah.
right? So there's an art to the way you initiate this. And I think for each of us who are invested in play, how we do that is different. And I think it actually is about an authentic representation of who we are. So
Yeah.
if people are like, okay, this guy's being him, he's not pretending to be anybody else. I can tell that this is who he is, right? That's a start. That's what you're moving in the right direction there.
I love that. Play absolutely has to be freely chosen. So believe it or not, it's time to play a game, Ben. So
Oh,
I'm going to do
okay.
it right back to you, but I'm going to give you the choice, but I wanted to hit that one more time because we just came off of New Year's and stuff. And I feel like New Year's Eve is the perfect example. Everybody feels like they have to have the most fun possible, and it's got to be the best
Uh,
night, best party ever. And it always kills the mood. Too much
yeah,
pressure on play or forcing people to have fun doesn't work. It's like forcing yourself to fall asleep or go to the bathroom. The more you try, the less likely it
yeah,
is to happen. And so you
yeah.
gotta release and let go and give everybody permission to not play or be able to opt in. So with that being
Totally
said,
agree.
it's time to
Yeah.
play the Wheel of Weird. I have 10 games on a wheel here. I'm going to spin. If you play, I'll give your podcast special promotion in the Playful Humans community on the Clubhouse board. If you don't play, that's okay too. We'll do the normal promotion on social media, share the podcast with everybody. But what do you say? Do you want to get weird or walk away?
Oh, I definitely want to get as weird as possible.
All right, here we go. We're spinning the wheel.
All right.
And we got, oh, this is too easy. You got yes and the improv game. I'm sure you've
Oh,
played it. So we're just going to do a scene together, yes and each other, continue the story going. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
sure, sure. Okay, the gods are smiling. Excellent. So, Mike, uh, do you remember that time we went to the Academy Awards and we went out afterwards with LeBron James?
Yes. And you had something interesting to eat for dinner, didn't you?
Yes, and we got back to his mansion, and I suddenly knew I was going to throw up. So I actually didn't make it to the bathroom. Remember, I threw up behind his couch.
Yes, and that was extremely awkward, but luckily he has people that clean that up for him, which was nice, and we got to continue the party.
Yes, actually, it was Beyonce who cleaned it up, and that's when we sat down, the three of us, you, me, and Beyonce, and we had this really profound conversation about playfulness.
Yes, and I believe she told us both to put a ring on it. I think. All right, nicely done, Ben. I appreciate the game. Thanks for playing. It's so much fun. I feel like as a improv acting coach, I should ask you for lessons or tips. If anybody wanted to be more playful or to do this in a group and have more fun, any final words of advice or anything you want to share?
Why, sure, Mike. Come to brightinvention.org and sign up for some of our online improv classes, which start on January 21st. We have Improv 1 for beginners. We have Improv 2, which I teach for the more experienced improviser. And we have a beautiful class called Acting Out for people with disabilities. So check us out, take an online class with us, and let's play.
That sounds awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show today. That will wrap it up for us here. If you want more information, again, that's brightinvention.org. Benjamin Lloyd, you can connect with him on LinkedIn and other social media too, I'm sure. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, whatever you got. Give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, suggestions for future guests. All that is great. And don't forget, you can find out your playful personality or more information about Playful Humans at playfulhumans.com/quiz. I'm Mike Montague, and if you can't be good at it. That's what I always say. Go play.
Nice. Thank you, Mike.